Lightyear is a fake movie. I mean, it's a real movie, yeah. I bought a ticket. I watched it. But this is, according to Pixar, a movie that exists in the Pixar universe. It's the movie that Andy saw that made him want to buy the Buzz Lightyear toy. So it's a movie within a movie. Like, there is an animated actor playing Buzz Lightyear in the movie that goes uncredited, but it's assumed that the guy who is Buzz Lightyear in this movie is also in other movies, but it's the anime. You get what I'm saying? And I went through all of that to say that this movie is simultaneously way better than it should be, but also about as deep as you'd expect a fake movie to go. Let's talk about it. Now, I don't think it's a secret that I've really liked the recent Pixar films, like, more than I should. I thought Soul was a one-of-a-kind, I thought Turning Red was charming and beautifully animated, and I thought Luca was a simple and sweet story that tugged at my heartstrings. Everything they've been doing recently has kind of gotten me to fall back in love with Pixar. And then there's Lightyear. Let's get one thing straight. Lightyear is beautifully animated. Go figure. I think it's ridiculous that this is the only Pixar film of this group that got a theatrical release, considering the others looked better, but I'm not upset. An action-filled space adventure produced by Pixar unsurprisingly looks pretty damn great on the big screen. Their skin textures, specifically scenes where Buzz is sweating, look really nice. All the hyperspace stuff looks phenomenal. And I mean, Pixar clearly more than any other animation company is really good at nailing realistic facial expressions. They look really great in this movie specifically. The only thing I'm bummed about in regards to its distribution is where the hell was the short film? Was that just my theater? Is there really no short film this time? Like, I got irrationally excited on my way to the theater because it was my first Pixar film in a theater in years, and I was gonna get to experience the short before the movie, and they didn't even do it. Is it because this is a movie within a movie, and that movie that Andy saw wouldn't have had a short before it? What kind of excuse is that? I know I'm a grown adult, I shouldn't be getting that upset about this, but I'm just, come on. It's the kind of sign that was telling me that this was barely a Pixar movie before the movie even started. Lightyear is a completely watchable and fine movie, yes. On its own, yeah, it's pretty good. But by Pixar standards, and frankly by most animated film standards, this was really unremarkable. And what I mean by that last part is that, while yes, the animation is clearly beautiful. When Pixar is doing it, they really do it. But at no point in the film did it ever make the case for why this needed to be an animated film. Obviously, I prefer it animated, but it never really showcases the freedom you have with that kind of tool, which is genuinely shocking to see in a Pixar film. This late in the game, something I really do admire about Pixar is how they continue to surprise me with their animation. Like, Turning Red introduced new styles, Luca had a lot of cool shapes and colors, and this was just kind of an animated movie? I might sound like I'm contradicting myself here, as I have been a pretty hardcore Luca defender for about a year now, and that my case for Luca is that Pixar doing these simple stories that aren't trying to be anything more are actually really sweet, and I really prefer a Pixar film just hanging out in its beautifully animated environment to a Pixar film trying to be philosophical for the sake of living up to its reputation. So by that logic, Lightyear should really work for me. It's about as cookie cutter as it gets and makes the case in its first frame that it is a movie that is a part of a universe, not something of its own. But Lightyear fails to ever genuinely hook me because Buzz Lightyear is not that interesting. Buzz Lightyear, the one in this movie, not the one from the other movies, is very dull. His whole character arc is that he feels like he needs to fix everything, and the message of the movie is that you can't do it without a team. If you think the film is going to do anything new or exciting with that kind of message, it doesn't really. This is a huge stretch, but it's kind of a surface level Mr. Fox in a lot of ways. Chris Evans even sounds like George Clooney a lot of the time. Something that works with Luca's simplicity, and even Turning Red's simplicity, is the use of metaphor, and how the red panda and mermaid figures symbolize the characters' identities. It's just on the nose enough for kids to connect to, and it's interesting enough for older audiences to gain a new, lighthearted perspective. That is kind of the charm of every Pixar film. And Lightyear really doesn't have an interesting hook like that. Lightyear is just about Buzz being in space, finding this group of people, and working together to get back home. And that's the thing, it hits all the right emotional beats. The script and edit are both airtight. I can't really find any flaws in how they decided to tell the story, but the story itself doesn't really have anything that significant to ever make you feel anything significant. Now, counter-argument, Lightyear is definitely more targeted towards children than most Pixar films in the last few years. Oh, you don't think so? Who's its #1 fan, asshole? I watched this opening day in a theater full of children, which, if you remember my hellish Jurassic World experience, seems like a bad time. But the theater for Lightyear was silent but engaged. Only time I ever heard one of the kids say something was when someone died and a little girl went, "She passed away," which is the cutest way a kid can say someone died. And that much makes me very happy. Jurassic World was eye-opening. It reminded me that making movies tailored towards families is actually very difficult because kids do get distracted all the damn time. And if your movie is extremely boring like that one, it's gonna be a noisy theater. And Lightyear is the kind of extremely surface-level movie with a likable yet completely shallow cast of characters with really nice animation to keep a kid fully invested. Not to mention Socks, who, let me just say, fully won me over. I like Socks. A lot of the spacey adventure logic fully does not make sense, like some of the ways it's talking about, like, the time jumps in the future and going back to the past. I'm like, wait, what? But for a movie like this, who really cares? This is the Buzz Lightyear movie from the 80s or the 70s or 90s. I don't really know when it's from. And if we're talking about the nostalgia factor of this movie and it being some sort of older space adventure film, it only really gets halfway there. I mean, the plot and the tone of it definitely feel like a movie that came around the time Star Wars came out, where it's not trying to change the game on any space movie cliches, rather it leans into them because that cheese is very charming. But the cinematography didn't feel all that retro. It felt very modern modern blockbuster action film, which didn't really make sense. And the dialogue feels very self-aware in a way that's always kind of irritated me in these newer Pixar films. But most importantly, the titles. Come on. I know this is insanely nitpicky, but why did they go with this, like, Transformers-type style for the credits and text? It does not look good, nor does it match the film at all. I just wish aesthetically, not just tonally, the film stuck to its, like, 80 nostalgias thing. That would at least be a thing this movie had going for it. So yeah, I'm mixed about this movie. I do unfortunately think it's the worst thing Pixar has made in a long time, but I really don't think it's a bad movie, nor is it the worst movie Pixar's ever made. I think kids will have an absolute blast with it, and if you are curious about it, you should absolutely check it out. It's not going to win over any skeptics, and that's fine. That was not at all what the movie set out to do. It isn't doing a single remarkable thing, yet it kept me relatively entertained for its entire runtime. I'm not upset that this movie exists at all. But I can hope that we are nearing the end of Toy Story universe movies, because this is as clear of a sign as ever that these characters are getting a little exhausted. Anyway, thanks for watching. Go watch Lightyear and form your own opinion, and